to share with you 3 things that I've learned from this experience. And my experiences aren't over. You know, my sister now has developed an autoimmune disease, my sister who lives next door, and so I've been kind of helping her with doctor's appointments. You know, it's a very different role, again, but it's still caregiving in a sense. I'm being an advocate for her and helping her figure out what to ask the doctor, that kind of thing. I find that my to-do list is pretty much this. It's everything, right? Is that your list? And you know, you're trying to juggle life and caring for people and other relationships and your home. And at one point I was taking care of my home in Alexandria, Virginia, the Phoenix house, my parents' place in the senior community, and the farm in Ohio, in terms of different responsibilities for all of those. It's a lot, right? And I realized that I can do anything, but I cannot do everything. And that was a game changer for me. I gave me permission to seek help and accept help. I can do anything. My gosh, the things that I've done that I never thought I would do, and I know you feel the same way, but I can't do everything. So I would ask you to say this out loud with me, because I think you really absorb it more. So can you say it with me? I can do anything, but I cannot do everything. Take that in. Absolutely take it in. Now, if you look, one of the most common questions I get from caregivers is, I can't get my family to help me, and so I'm alone. They say, well, how can I get my brothers or sisters or whoever to help? And I say, if your family is your only part of your team, it's going to be a very small team. You cannot do it just with family anymore. You have to have other help. We had all these people. That was my safety net. That was my mom and dad's safety net. From the hairstylist who would come and get my parents when I was out of town and I couldn't get them to their hair appointment, to the local pharmacist who was my best friend by the end of all this, because I could ask any medication questions, even if I didn't get the prescription filled there at the local pharmacy, the financial advisor, the lawyer, paid caregivers who I brought in. I had a personal assistant who helped me, support groups. There's so many ways to get support. And sometimes it's your friends, it's your neighbors. One of the biggest learnings for me was that sometimes what I needed most was help for me, to free me up to do the things that only I could or wanted to do. I have some quality times with my parents. I didn't want it to just be, I'm taking them to doctor's appointments. I wanted to have fun with them sometimes too. So I found Debbie. She was my concierge or personal assistant. And I could pay Debbie, for 2 hours of work, and it would ease my stress immensely. She would sort the mail when I had been out of town. She would clean out closets, run errands for me. She would check on my parents when I was out of town and make sure that people who were taking care of them, if they had care at that time, were doing what they should be doing. She would do things like coordinate the yard guy to come and fix something in the yard for me. The things that just drive you insane and stress you out, like the closet that's so disorganized, but it's just not your highest priority, right? But it causes you stress every single day. She'd come and spend an hour reorganizing my closet. She helped me put out holiday decorations, which was very important to me and my mom in terms of quality of life, and put them away if I didn't have time to put them away. So think about how people can help you and support you as a caregiver. They're part of your caregiving team as well. Now, I also look at the roles that people on a team can play. You can see I have big picture roles, backup players who are the people who are got to be able to step in if you're not there. Debbie was a backup player for me. My sisters were backup players. Single responsibility people. People often say to me, I want my sister to come in and do more hands-on care, but she won't. Well, maybe she'll manage the finances instead. Maybe there's something else that she'll do. She'll do research for you online. Figure out what that thing is that person will do and take it. Because if you spend all your time being resentful about what they're not doing, it's only going to hurt you and it's not going to help the situation. So I look at different roles. You have ongoing interactors, people who are the day-to-day kind of folks, and then those task-oriented people who will come in and do one thing and leave. One-time contributors are also part of your team. When I emptied my sister's house, I had friends, like I said, who came one time and spent a day, and they were lifesavers for me. And that was one day, but it was a huge help. So if you have caregivers in your life, think about the roles that you can play in supporting them. And if you're a caregiver, think about how your friends and family and paid folks can help you do all of these things. You gotta heal those relationships now, don't wait. Because when you're in the middle of a crisis, it's not a good time to try and fix all your whole family relationships, right? Everything will blow up then. You've got to look at the strengths and their personalities, what they're comfortable with, and look at realistic expectations. The location of where someone lives is an issue. If they live at a distance, or if they live nearby, or they live with your loved one, you're going to have different roles. But it doesn't mean that you live at a distance, so there's nothing you can do. There is so much you can do now from a distance. You can come and be the respite person. You can do research online. You can be on the phone in doctor's appointments. I've done it many times. You can do things like come in and be that person, that one-time person that cleans out the closet. There's just so much that you can do if you're at a distance. You got to think what responsibilities other people have in their lives. There's also budget issues. My sister couldn't afford to fly herself back and forth from Ohio, so I did that mostly with my frequent flyer miles. But there are issues you have to take into account. But again, they're not closed doors. There's ways to get around these things. You have to communicate with your team, and technology has changed that more than anything. You know, there's so many apps now and ways, text messaging and emails and everything that you can communicate with your team. And they don't have to be in the dark about what's happening with your loved ones. Most importantly, we have to show appreciation. And sometimes we forget this. I know I was guilty of forgetting it sometimes because you get so busy. You're just going, and going on to the next task. But stop and thank people for what they're doing. And thank yourself sometimes too for what you're doing. This was our garage before my parents moved back in the house. Do you have a room like this in your house? So my boyfriend came out and did this. He's a keeper, isn't he? So he also came and put a heater in the bathroom because my dad loved his shower. He was not a person who was afraid of the water. Some people with dementia get that way. He loved his shower, but he hated being cold. And a lot of people, that's why they don't want to take a shower, because they don't want to be cold. So he put a heater in the bathroom, so when Dad got out of the shower, the room was nice and warm. And then when he would visit, he came out probably 3-4 times a year, and so he wasn't there all the time, but he was an intermittent person who would help out with Daddy as needed, and he was a big moral support to me, of course. So his role on the team was different than, say, my sister's role, but his role was just as important on the team. So there's such a variety. The community services are also part of your safety net. Whether it's the Area Agency on Aging, anybody here from any organizations in the Aging Network, thank you for being here, thank you for what you do. There's so much that you offer. You might get somebody to come in and do home repairs or chores, the housing manager where your loved ones live, the social workers, the therapists, the hospice organizations. My dad had hospice the last 4 months of his life, and they were wonderfully supportive. So all of these folks are part of your team too. Rhode Island Office on Healthy Aging, I guess, is the Area Agency on Aging in this area, as I understand. And also, the VA is a big resource. If you're anybody caring for a veteran, our veterans are, we have veterans, we have pre-9/11 veterans from some World War II veterans still living, Korea, Vietnam, and now we have a lot of post-9/11 veterans who are being cared for by their spouses or their parents who have come back from Iraq or Afghanistan with terrible injuries and PTSD, brain trauma, and the VA offers a lot of support for families. We had, as I mentioned, we got our hospital bed from them. We got the ramps. We had aides who came at the end of Dad's life every single day to help us get him out of bed and shaved and bathed, because it took 2 people. And they were wonderful for us. And truly, I don't know what we would have done without them. Alzheimer's Association, Stroke Association, Heart Association, all of the disease-specific organizations, some of them have very actual practical supports helping with transportation to doctor's appointments and things like that. So always check in with those organizations if your loved one has diabetes or whatever illnesses they're dealing with. And of course, AARP Rhode Island is here for you, offering events like this and other supports for family caregivers locally. AARP has a wonderful caregiving website, and we are there to try and support you as well. We have all kinds of articles, and we have videos and tools for you to use. I've got a lot of videos on the site as well as on YouTube. We have everything available in Spanish, and we have an online community where myself and other experts are there intermittently. We answer questions. You can post questions. And we have, again, so many neat videos. We have our Home Loan Alliance videos help you with medical and nursing tasks. How do you deal with how do you get somebody to use a walker? How do you get someone safely in and out of the car or transferred to the bed? How do you deal with things like incontinence, which is something nobody talks about, right? And you know, I would ask my dad's urologist, and they would have no information for me at all about dealing with incontinence. So we have some really great videos to help you deal with that as well. And then we have webinars and things that you can watch when you have time to watch them. We have a community resource finder where you can put in your zip code and find out about everything from transportation, care at home, community services, support groups, all of those things. And we have a free publication, which we have on the back table here. We have many different versions of it, including a military guide, just to help you go through the stages and think about where you are, wherever you are on your caregiving journey. We also have books, and I'm happy to say this is my book, Juggling Life, Work, and Caregiving, and AARP Rhode Island has generously purchased books for you, and they are in the bags in the back of the room. So you got your swag bag back there. Be sure and grab a bag on your way out, and if you'd like me to sign the book, I'd be more than happy to do so and talk with you afterwards. And we also have something new that I'm really excited about. Are any of you on Facebook? Yeah, we got some Facebookers here. We have a new family caregivers discussion group on Facebook. I'm moderating it, so I'm in there every single day. People post questions, they ask for support. It's a lot of moral support, but it's also very practical supports. Someone was recently posting that they couldn't get their mom to get in the shower, and everybody had good suggestions, so really practical support. Number 2 of my 3 points of what I've learned is that I cannot run on empty. Now, this true story. I went to the gas station and I was almost out of gas. And you know how you drive in and you're just hoping and praying that you make it without the car breaking down, right? We all know this feeling. And I was so relieved I made it, and I filled the car up with gas, and as I drove away, I thought, you know, it's so interesting. The car actually runs better on a full tank of gas. Well, duh, right? But that was my aha moment, because I realized that I was expecting myself to run just as efficiently on empty all the time. And I realized that wasn't practical. It didn't make sense. I can't run on empty any more than my car can. And it's not selfish, it's practical. So when you look at the things that are going on with your car, like your car is knocking or it's making sounds or there's something not right about it, you take it and you get looked at, right? Well, what are the red flags for you? I find that I'm more stressed out, I'm short-tempered, I get angry more easily, my relationships are suffering, my health suffers, maybe my finances suffer because I'm not paying the bills on time. There are so many ways that you've got red flags popping up all over the place, like you need some attention. You need to go into the shop, right? Like your car. So how do you do that though, for yourself? So I came up with this system for myself, and this is how I have managed it for more than a decade, my caregiving. And I'm finding now that my parents are gone, I'm continuing this process. This is a life lesson, really, that you get out of caregiving. So you start with quick tank fillers. This is mostly what we have time for, right? The 5 or 10 minutes, because you're so busy when you're caregiving. It might be just getting a good cup of coffee. It's coming, you know, having the connection on Facebook or texting, getting a quick interaction with someone. I would text my boyfriend or my best friend. Just stopping and breathing and giving a hug. I could, again, put my head on my dad's shoulder and that would fill my tank right up. Might be having animals around, pet your animals. One thing my dad always did for my mom was have fresh flowers in the house. So when he was no longer able to actually go out and buy those flowers, I continued that. And I do that today. It gives me a lot of joy to see those flowers, and that's just a quick fill up for me. Breathing is a big one, and mindfulness. You hear a lot about mindfulness these days, and all it means is that you're in the present moment and you're aware of what's going on. If my mind is a million miles away trying to think about work or things I need to get done, or worrying about my sister, or worrying about my nephew, or you're worrying about your grandkids, you're not in the present moment. And that is much more stressful. It wears your brain out. And lots of research has been done on this to show that it's actually less stressful if you stay in the present moment. So try to do that on a regular basis. Creating and noticing joy is our greatest survival skill as caregivers. This is something that you cannot live without. The things that give you joy fill you up. I gave my dad his army cap one day to put on, and he flipped the bill up and he made this face. I said, "Dad, you look like Gomer Pyle." And he laughed and I laughed. That kept us going for all day. Those little moments that you take the time to do and not be so caught up in your stress. Number 2 are after the quick tank fillers are the premium fill-ups. So you have to be able to get a little bit more. Being here today is a premium fill-up for you. So congratulations. I'm so glad you're here, because this is filling your tank a bit. And other things that are good for me, big doses of nature are really important for me. Just getting outside, taking a walk, doing some gardening. I used to take my parents to the Home Depot or Lowe's to the flower area, the plant area, and we'd stroll around in there because it was just good to be around the flowers and everything. Family and friends, spending time with them. I have to schedule things or it doesn't happen. So try to put that on your calendar, that time for your family to gather or for you to hang out with your friends. Reading a good book, watching a movie. A lot of these things you can do with your loved ones, but they fill you up too, and they fill them up. We watched a lot of musicals. My dad couldn't follow plots on complicated movies after a while, so we watched all the musicals because plots are easy and he loves the music, and I love him too. So we would just have so much fun singing along to Sound of Music or Oklahoma. And some people, it's like golf is their passion, and they give it up because of caregiving. Well, don't give it up. Do it at least now and then. Go for a hike. Do the things that really are important to you and fill you up. Creativity is a big premium fill up. We did this coloring book for caregivers for that reason. But whether it's doing crafting or scrapbooking or woodworking or whatever it is, a creative outlet, that fills you up, that nurtures your soul. Number 3 are tune-ups. Now this is the hardest one because this is time away from caregiving. This doesn't mean I'm going to take a break from caring for my husband and I'm going to go care for my grandkids for a week. That's not a premium fill-up. And that's not a tune-up, rather. It's time away from caregiving, and even for a few days. You've got to do this at least once a year, and hopefully more often than that. My boyfriend and he was really good about getting me to go on one vacation a year. And, it would be a week or a long weekend or something, but getting away, just the two of us. My best friend has a timeshare, and so she would get me to the beach, because that's what really fills me up the most, is getting to the beach. Maybe you just stay home, and you clean out your closets, and you take care of things, and you just be home, and you just, sit and watch a TV at night and don't do anything. It's a staycation, a vacation. I used my American Express points one year, and I paid for everything with my American Express, and I used those points, and I went to a spa in Sedona for a weekend, and I didn't pay a thing for it. So get creative about how you can get these breaks. One of the most amazing opportunities for caregivers that I know of is Rhodes Scholar has grants for caregivers. You're familiar with Rhodes Scholar? It used to be called Elder Hostel. They're trips and travel for older adults, although I don't think they actually have an age limit, and there are intergenerational trips, etc. But they have this opportunity for caregivers. It's a $1,500 grant towards one of their trips, and you can go on a lot of trips for that amount of money. You have to get yourself to the point where the trip starts, and that's your expense. And then once you're in there, things are paid for. And I got to go, these are photos from one that I got to go on, and I wrote about it. If you look it up on the ARP website, I wrote about it. I went to Santa Fe, and the trip was called Finding Your Bliss in the Land of Enchantment. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? And it really was, wonderful for me. We walked the labyrinths, we had massages, we met with an Indian healer, and we took poetry class, and it was just wonderful stuff for me. But they have a wide variety of trips for men and women and everybody in between. It's just really a great opportunity. So go to their website and look at it. Number 4 is the routine maintenance. Now, again, these are not negotiable. You have to get your health care. You have to get your immunizations and your preventive checkups. You have to do things like laugh on a regular basis, and be able to vent to someone. That's where these online groups are really fantastic, because you're venting to people who get it, or a support group. Maintaining your identity is a big part of it. Do you ever feel like you lost yourself in caregiving? A lot of people tell me that. And I think it's really important to think about, well, what is my identity? For me, music is a big part of my identity, and I haven't been able to sing in a choir, but I could sing with my dad, so I didn't completely lose that. Work might be your identity, other parts of your life. Be aware of what you eat, and keep moving. These are 2 really, really important things for you to do. Keep moving in some way. You've got to have a blend of all of these. Now, the last point I want to make for you is to monitor your mindset. The way that you experience life and the way that you approach caregiving changes the way that you experience it. And we find that people come through caregiving very differently. Some people come through bitter, angry, resentful. Some people come through and look back and say, this was fantastic. I'm really glad I did it, and I don't have regrets. So what are the differences in that? And a lot of it is the mindset. Where are you operating from? Are you operating from fear? Are you operating from fatigue? Are you operating from love and joy? And see if you can switch it. I was on the phone once the lab had messed up my mom's lab tests, and I was so angry, and I heard myself yelling at this person on the phone. And she put me on hold, and I thought, what am I doing? This is not me. This is not how I usually am. And I thought, where am I coming from? Well, I was afraid. I was afraid my mom was going to get sick. And I thought, okay, what would love do? And I thought, I need to just solve the problem and let go of it and move forward. And so she got back on the phone, and we worked it out, and we redid the tests. But figuring out where you're coming from when you're interacting with people is a big help. Value what you do. You're doing something really, really important, even if it's the tiniest role on the caregiving team. It's really important. You've seen how the whole team is a big, important part of it. Choose to be adaptable and flexible and positive. Being adaptable is your most important skill as you age. And it's very important in caregiving as well. You think you're gonna have it right, and then something's gonna happen, and I thought we had it all set up when my parents moved in that senior community, and it didn't work out the way I thought it would. But I had to change the plan. And we adapted, and in the end it was better than it really could have been. Focus on what you can do or what they can do. I focused always on what my dad could still do, instead of focusing on the things that he was losing. I focused on who he was and what he could do. And I try to look at myself that way too. There's so many things we can't control. We can't control everything, but we can control our attitudes about it. We can make some conscious choices about that. I can't fix everything, but I can be a really strong advocate. I can't stop aging or cure. I so wanted the cure for Alzheimer's disease to happen while my dad was living, and I couldn't do that. But I could be there for him the whole duration, and I could strongly advocate for him. I can't do everything, but I can adjust my goals, and I can get help. I can't change other people, but I can accept what they will do and let go of the resentment because it's only hurting me. And I can't please everyone, but I can do my best and have peace of mind. I can't be superhuman, but I can be resilient. And that is really the key. I remember why I'm doing this. For me, it's because of love. I had wonderful, wonderful family, wonderful parents. It wasn't perfect. We fought, we had disagreements, we had issues, but overall I did. Some people do this out of a sense of duty and responsibility. Many people don't really like the people that they're caring for. They haven't had a good relationship. Whatever it is, remember why you're doing it and realize that you choose to be there. People will say, I didn't have a choice in my caregiving. You'll even see it on survey questions. And I hate that question because everything we do is a choice. In reality, everything we do is a choice. So own that and realize that you're not a victim. You are there because you choose to be there at the level that you choose to be there. And own that and feel good about it. Value that because you're doing something so, so important. There are millions of people out there who have nobody looking out for them. And it's not because they don't have family. It's because people choose not to be there. And there are some people who don't have family and who have wonderful friends who are looking out for them because they choose to do so. I've seen this throughout my 35 plus years career. So value that choice. And realize, I remember so clearly one day sitting at my desk and feeling like a complete failure because I think my mom had a fall again and I hadn't prevented it. All the things I tried to do to prevent these things or the downsides or the infections or whatever. And I was just feeling so low and I thought, I am not helping them and it's not helping me to feel like a failure. What can I do? And I realized I had to change my view of success. The one thing I knew I could always do was be there. I knew I would always bounce back and be there and walk alongside them. So all the little things that I did for my parents added up to success. And every time, I got knocked down and got back up and just kept going alongside them. Showing up is success as a caregiver. And the waves will come along and they'll knock you down, but eventually you learn to ride the waves. And if the dogs can do it, we can do it, right? You learn to ride the waves. And you get back up and you're there. So resilience is success. 83% of family caregivers look back on the experience and say it was positive overall. That's the vast majority. So what is it when you're done with your caregiving? What are you going to look back on and think, I feel good about that? I've shared some of the things with you that I feel good about. Do more of those things. Do the things that are important to you, that make you realize you're making a difference. I want to leave you with one little bit of advice from my dad, and it's extremely important advice for you.
Keep cool, but don't freeze.
Got it?
And enjoy it. When you're trying to work and do it, fine. Enjoy it and do it. That's it. Don't plan at all.
You've always.
You give us your best shot.
Right?
Lots of people do. And lots of people don't. You hang in there.
The one other thing.
And we, as a group, as far as I'm concerned, we are groups of good. Period.
That's all of you.
It works out a little bit or not. The way it works out, the way it works out. The way it is.
Yep.
And do it to your best shot. Okay?
Okay. You always told me don't fight the problem.
Okay, everybody agree?
Everybody agrees.
Yes?
Here's to everyone.
Here's to all of you. Thank you so much for having me here today.